Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 149 of the world's longest tenured Denver Nuggets spin-off podcast. Welcome to the DNVR Nuggets' Serbian Corner. My name is Miroslav. Before we begin, please take a moment to like the video on YouTube, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the DNVR Sports YouTube channel and DNVR Nuggets podcast channel. The audio version is ideal for your commute or to make your office or home office time more bearable. If you want to support the show more directly, you can become a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/MiroslavCuk, just like my Seco tier supporters Peter Plummer, Daniel Lynch, and Brian Johnson. Patreon supporters can enjoy the ad-free audio version of this show. They can also send ideas for guests and topics for the show and appear on the show during the summer when Game Show Month returns with even crazier trivia games than ever before. I actually thought that would happen like 2 weeks ago, but we keep getting Nuggets news, so we are still on a regular program. So, as I mentioned, there's no shortage of Nuggets news, even though we are getting deep into the July. The Jonas Valanciunas drama continues. The Nuggets said they want to keep Jonas for next season and not necessarily the season after that, but that can just be a leverage play. They don't want a single dollar of dead cap for next season if Jonas decides to join his family in Europe instead of competing for the NBA championship in Denver. MPJ made a beautiful goodbye video for the Nuggets fans in which he thanked Tim Connelly for taking a chance on him, both Stan and Josh Kroenke, and also Nikola Jokić and Jamal Murray. Mike has been a model professional, and I will dedicate a significant portion of this episode to expressing my gratitude to him for his perseverance in bringing the championship to the Mile High City. The Summer League started. Daron Holmes' second attempt at starting his NBA career, but also some interesting guys like the new two-way contract guy Tamar Bates and the returning two-way contract guy Spencer Jones. Hunter Tyson also returned to the Summer League for the third time. And I don't care what the Nuggets do in Las Vegas, but it would be nice to get a signature moment from it, even though we need to tell ourselves the competition is often worse than in the G League, and we shouldn't overreact to anything that happens there. In other words, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. In other news, Chet Holmgren signed a 5-year, $240 million rookie max extension after playing an average of 38 games in his first 3 NBA seasons, and Jalen Williams signed a 5-year, $290 million extension or something like that after being like the 5th best Thunder against the Nuggets last playoffs. What could go wrong? Kelly Olynyk was traded to San Antonio for nothing, as all NBA centers need to play in the Western Conference. Meanwhile, our old friend Gary Harris moved to Milwaukee, allowing him to watch the downfall of once great team from up close. Okay, that is enough of an intro. I have a great show for you guys. For the first time in a while, I've assembled a panel of OGs. I've been following, reading their stuff, reading their internet comments, stuff like that for many, many, many years now. So I'm going to introduce them one by one. First, from sunny California, from the birthplace of Tiger Woods and John Stamos, and also Ray Martinelli, it's Ray Martinelli. Welcome back to the show, Ray. You are muted. You are muted still on your side.
Oh, my bad. Okay, great to see you again. This is going to be a great show compared to the last time that we met.
The last time we spoke was a show where I posed the question whether Michael Malone or Calvin Booth should get fired, and that was like I want to say like what was it, 5 days before they actually got both fired.
Yeah,
And yeah, we all agreed like probably nobody is getting fired. Come on, guys, like we need to figure these
that was
things
for the summer too.
out.
Yeah, that was should they get fired this summer?
Oh, exactly. Not even back then.
Yeah,
So how was life in California?
it's good. It's actually like we were just in Vegas right before summer league, and this is the first time that in a while that I haven't been to summer league. So it's nice to at least be not so hot, But it's pretty cool out there when you get to watch them play. So it's good.
Okay, let me introduce another panelist for today from the Four Corners podcast and also from Homer, Alaska. It's Peter Plummer. What up, Pete?
What's up, Miroslav? How you doing?
Uh, Very good, very good. I was actually just eating watermelon, which is funny because I was listening to Cantaloupe Island by Herbie Hancock all day, and I don't know why that's funny. It's only funny to me for some reason. But yeah, how's life in Alaska?
It's good. It's a blistering 56 degrees up here, so staying warm.
Oh, you're lucky it's not 56 degrees Celsius because that would be awful. And
Yes.
I guess you're just enjoying a bit of a chilly weather right now. Last but not least, from Denver, Connecticut, it's Andy Juett.
Hi, Miroslav. It's nice to be in the state representing the state and the team on the podcast today. I'm out here just at Mississippi and Chambers. I'm out here at International Man in Aurora. If you need a buy one, get one suit, it's available. You don't have to be a husky gentleman. A lot of people think it's only big and tall. That's a misconception. So if you've got a graduation, quinceanera, wedding, family event, you got to head over to International Man and, Brian and the gang will get you taken care of. Mississippi and Chambers, internationalmanaurora.com.
So, do you have suits for large gentlemen like I am?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's everything. They've got everything. I could see you in sort of. They've got everything for Miroslav in a jogging suit. Sort of a matching set where you're sort of, am I fit? Am I going to the club? And then they've got more traditional styles for formal wear. So I think you'd look good out there, man. Next time you're in town, we'll head over to International Man and we'll get it done.
Perfect. I already have like 10 different appointments made for the next visit. Guys, have anyone from this panel seen the new Superman movie before we start the Nuggets talk?
I've seen
Andy.
it, Miroslav.
And what is the verdict?
It's okay. So I think the overall verdict is that somehow it works. It's very like so much energy and so many like little side stories and characters and a lot of information to take in. But I think honestly, James Gunn did a good job making it accessible, even though it moves super fast. Because like the dog is great, and everybody's doing their roles really well. The guy who plays Jimmy Olsen has a funny through line, and there's some other really funny people just randomly. So I liked it. I take it Superman for what it is, which is the whole vibe of helping people and the disenfranchised is back. Superman kills that.
Yeah, nice. Okay, I have nothing to add to that. I am planning on watching Superman soon, so I just needed to get some online help with that. So, guys, here's the thing. This is a panel where not all of us have similar thoughts on Nuggets and the way they should build their team around second half of prime Nikola Jokić. But in the end, I feel we are all happy with the result we got from Benjamin Wallace front office. The Nuggets found a way to add 4 veterans, with only one of them being 33 years old. The other 3 are younger. They also kept all of their young players, including Brown, Watson, Strother, and Pickett. And the price of it was losing the franchise legend in Michael Porter and a couple of guys who ended the season outside of rotation in Vlatko Čančar and Dario Šarić. Not to mention, the first round pick from 2032 that's also gone now. So let's leave the Michael Porter gratitude talk for the last segment, because I really want to push that hard at the end and concentrate on the turnover we got this July. So, Ray, you have a very good sense of what is probable in the NBA. That is why you insisted for a while that the Nuggets need to wait until next summer to be able to trade MPJ for a positive return. How do you feel about the trade that brought Cam Johnson as a return this summer?
Yes, I did say that, and I have all the tweets to prove it. I actually have been going back to February saying the only way that I thought they should have traded Michael Porter Jr. was if it was like a talent upgrade that also shed some salary. And then they can start using these picks that are really valuable. And I used that same, almost to a T, the same trade for Cam Johnson. But I said maybe plus 2032 swap and then the 2031 pick outright and then a swap in 2030. I thought that's what it would take. And the fact that it happened, I'm still in shock that it actually happened, because I just kind of thought that would work. Because of that, yeah, everything they did now is it's setting up so that they can sort of have their cake and eat it too, which is, oh man, I'm still kind of speechless as to what they've done this offseason. It's amazing.
Pete, how do you feel about this swap? You are a very, very well-known Michael Porter guy.
Yeah, I mean, on the surface, I was pretty shocked, mostly because they kind of told us they weren't really going to do much this summer. So I'm going to love to find out, who made the first call there. Was it the Nuggets or was it Brooklyn? I really don't know, because I think the price for Cam Johnson at the trade deadline was 2 first-round picks. So I guess nobody was giving that to Brooklyn, and now they obviously had to lower their price. So if you look at it from that perspective, it's a solid deal for the Nuggets. You only have to give up 1 future first. Unfortunately, that is pretty much their last first to trade, so this kind of has to work. I mean, I think I'm obviously reacting to a trade is what we do, but this is a trade that we can't really evaluate until years down the road, right? So I still think it's a very lateral move. I get that Cam Johnson is a little bit more versatile than Porter, but he's also smaller. So I'm just not really a fan of, trading to make your team smaller, especially in the West when you have to play teams like the Timberwolves and the Thunder. But I'm confident that Cam will be a good fit. So I understood the trade. And then I think the second part is like Ray already talked about with the value of the contracts. I think when you look at the trade of Porter, when the offseason first started on the first day, the Celtics made that trade where they dumped Porzingis. They were able to dump Drew Holiday. And I think Nuggets, this is just kind of the reactionary nature of the NBA. Nuggets fans are upset, wow, the Celtics can do that. Why can't we get rid of Porter? Or, why can't we make a move? But, luckily we were patient enough. And then this move comes about. And on the surface, it's okay, some people are excited. Some people are like me. They're kind of wait and see. But when you see the following moves after that, it gave me more hope, because it's okay, there was a real plan here of let's try to get off this contract and then see how we can build the team better. So I think I know you're going to sort of talk about that in the next segment, but if the Valanciunas thing works out, then overall, I think it makes sense what they did, because they upgraded the roster as a whole, even if I think it's a lateral move for that specific trade.
Andy, let me ask you something, because I don't agree with Pete on this being a lateral move, because I believe this is a huge net positive move, because the price of getting off Michael Porter's contract with 2 years left was probably a first-round pick. So they basically got Cam Johnson for free in this. Just like Ray mentioned, Ray expected a couple of more pick swaps to entice a team like the Nets to take Michael Porter's contract and give us the exact same amount of years of Cam Johnson, 2 seasons of Cam Johnson on almost half the price of Michael Porter. So do you think this was a slam dunk move? because of the fact that this move not only gave them another player to be the starting shooting small forward in the lineup, but also enabled them to do all the other moves they did after that?
Yeah, I think that's exactly correct. I think that I'm with Pete in the sense that I think maybe, and I'm just guessing, but knowing that Pete likes MPJ and with the respect we all have for him, I think that it's just that when he says lateral move, it's like with recognition of all the cool things that Michael Porter Jr. did and brings to the table, which is a 6'10", anomaly who can take up a lot of space on the court for all of his other shortcomings. But to your point about this is exactly what needed to happen. Like in terms of just breaking up the glut of what the two paths could have been. The fork in the road was stay pretty undynamic, ride your horses, roll the dice on the bottom four guys, or the Calvin Booth 4-year rookie contract guys, which I think anybody with eyes and experiencing last season could go, okay, there's a lot to like about some of those guys, but that's not going to be enough. And then for them to pull this Jenga piece and do the exact right piece in the whole stack so that we could do other things in order was a sign to me that all of a sudden we have a front office that had a plan in place and had a if-then flow chart. And I don't think that happened before. I think, I don't want to jump ahead, but I think even some of the other guys we ended up getting, maybe Calvin Booth would have gotten them, but I think or in some other capacity, but I think he would have given them like too much money or like a bad contract for us. Like the flip here is really nice in what it allowed us to do, but it also, we'll get more into Cam Johnson and Michael Porter Jr. I think the upside is, and the big thing that people aren't talking about, maybe they are and I'm missing it, is that the IQ swing is gigantic. I mean, Cam Johnson is like Jokić in Porter's body, but was a little shorter, to Pete's point. But like, he's a pretty versatile player, and he has a brain, and he's a hub and spoke guy, not just a spoke.
Yeah, we'll continue on this very interesting topic, but we need to take our first break. So I'm just gonna tease. It's gonna get interesting right now. Don't go anywhere. Okay, we are back. Andy, I'm coming back to you just because I have a short question before we continue with Cam Johnson talk. And do you think that Cam Johnson might just not have a nickname, just like Gary Harris? Maybe we'll just call him Cam Johnson?
Yeah, it's going to be something dumb. Some marketing person's going to get a hold of it, and it's going to be like "Kill a Cam" or something like that. Like something that is pretty generic. That's my guess. Gary Harris is like the most Gary Harris name you can have. So I think that really is always going to stand alone, where it could be like a welder in Gary, Indiana, or a basketball player. I think Cam Johnson's going to have a straightforward name.
Ray, back to you with a serious question. So Pete mentioned this being a lateral move in sense of, yes, we all understand Cam has a bit of a deeper back than Michael Porter, but he is also a smaller guy, so you cannot get probably the same amount of rebounds you got from Michael Porter. His finishing around the rim might not be as good as Michael's was. But on the other side, Michael was a distant dot in an algorithm of Denver Nuggets basketball, meaning that if ball goes to him, he either shoots it or resets the possession because he couldn't do much with the ball outside of shooting it. What we get with Cam Johnson here is a guy that can continue the action, put the ball on the court, find another guy who is open, maybe not to the degree of Aaron Gordon or Jamal Murray, but we're just going to have to see what will be the levels there. But definitely there's a big upgrade on that side of offense with the Nuggets, and we're not touching the defense yet.
Was that the question? Or, oh, sorry.
Yeah. Do
Yeah,
you
oh, yeah,
agree
yeah.
with that part?
I completely agree. And I'd actually even add to that a little bit. And this is where I don't think it's a lateral even on offense. I think that and Adam actually was just talking about this earlier on their podcast with Jason, that when Mike is covered, he kind of doesn't have a lot usually that he can do except for reset the offense. And I think he tries to make good passes, and he's a pretty unselfish passer. There's just not a lot of opportunities because he's not creating 2-on-1s. But Cam, he can actually get his shot off in a few different in a few different areas. And I wanted to go back to the whole size thing because I actually think that, and I've just started feeling this way maybe in the last 4 months, but with Mike being 6'10", he really, at least on offense and even on defense, you don't really notice that he's that big, right? If he gets a small guy on him, he's not really doing much. Occasionally he'll shoot over him. If he gets a big guy on him, he's not going around him and things like that. I think we're going to see a little bit more of that, being able to take advantage of those type of mismatches with Cam, because we saw it at least this season in Brooklyn, and I didn't see it like to the same level with Mike.
Pete, where do you see the biggest weaknesses in Cam Johnson's game that make you believe we're not getting a big upgrade here?
I think it's mostly going to be to his role, because I think if you look at his career, he was a really good role player on the Phoenix Suns teams that went to the finals. And if you think about that lineup, it was Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, and DeAndre Ayton. And now he's going to have Jamal Murray, Christian Braun, Aaron Gordon, and Nikola Jokic. So which four players do you think is better with Cam Johnson? And remember, Chris Paul was a lot better 4 years ago than he is right now. So I actually think that's kind of close. What's a better fit? Time will tell. I just think the thing that MPJ was elite at is, he was a great bailout player. He would hit a ton of shots in the last 5 seconds of the shot clock when nothing was going on.
Sometimes.
And you can say that like maybe that's bad process. So I'll admit that I think with Cam Johnson, the upside is that the offensive process will be better. To give you a football analogy, Miroslav, because I know you love those.
Yes.
Michael Porter is like that freak 6'5" wide receiver that you have. So when it's the 3rd and long, you can just kind of throw it up and hopefully he'll make a spectacular play and catch it. And he made a lot of those. So I don't think Cam's going to be able to do that kind of stuff, but I'm hoping that the IQ, like you mentioned, I do agree with that part, will give us better possessions, over the course of a full game. The key is now, though, the roster has shifted a little bit. I think, we'll talk about this later, but the addition of Tim Hardaway Jr. is something that's really going to help here, because what I think Cam is better at than MPJ is just being a connector, right? Like you talked about MPJ getting stuck and having to reset. I think on the possessions when they do close out to Cam and he swings the ball, it's going to be key for guys like Julian Strawther and Tim Hardaway to hit shots. Because I think we've seen Christian Braun, he just doesn't really like to shoot threes that much. And I really do think that kind of screwed up the spacing a lot this year with the team. So it's not that I'm pessimistic about the move. It's more just like, I get why Nuggets fans think on paper it's an upgrade, but I still think it's a whole equation, right, with the whole team. I do think they can get 2 better 5-man lineups now. And so I think the IQ helps, but it's still going to be a wait and see.
What about the defense? Do you think it's a wash there too?
No, so the defense, I do think it'll help because I think he's a little bit more mobile, which means he probably has a little bit more versatility in who he can guard, which hopefully means Aaron can take some more time guarding power forwards and not having to chase guys on the perimeter. Because if we're being honest, Aaron had kind of a down year on defense. I know he was struggling with the calf issue all year, but if we're being real, like the reason the Nuggets are paying Aaron Gordon is to be the best defender on the team. So if he's not giving you great defense, that's a problem. So I'm really fascinated to see what the defense looks like this year. I think it can be a little bit better. Obviously, the rebounding is going to take a team effort since he's worse than MPJ there. But I think they can overcome it.
Andy, how do you feel about, how do I put this in normal analogy? How do you feel about Cam Johnson adding to the team while losing, as Pete mentioned, some of the high outputs, porter quarters as we call them? How do you feel high IQ guy adds to the equation in that sort of environment?
I think it speaks to what Pete touched on. The best teacher is a good example. And when he was on the Suns, that team had a lot of dynamism with the basketball. I mean, it had a clear, arbiter of the ball, and it had great shooters everywhere. And it had a big man who, while playing Call of Duty 48 hours a day, was actually still pretty good, even though he was a bonehead and still seems like a bonehead. But I think the sum total effect that you're talking about, I think, is also what Pete said, which is we don't have to find out, because if it was just MPJ for Cam Johnson and they did nothing else, I think that would be a mistake, because they have longevity and chemistry, and we already know what we're getting in that. And I don't think Cam Johnson 1-for-1 is as good as Cam Johnson plus Tim Hardaway Jr., who was absolutely a rhythm guy on the Pistons last year, and to me played one of his best seasons last year. And, is the type of guy that Calvin Booth probably would have spent all his money on, even though he didn't need to, because he didn't realize he could get him for a mid-level or for a minimum, and probably would have given him a mid-level exemption, and we probably wouldn't get anything else. So I think Cam Johnson with Valanciunas, if knock on wood, he's coming. We haven't even talked about that. But Tim Hardaway Jr., Bruce Brown, we haven't talked about Bruce Brown. It's like there's questions there. Do I think Bruce Brown can play defense? Absolutely. He's all heart and fire. Can he bring back his 2023 offense? I have no idea. But I do know that it's better to me than rolling out Hunter Tyson and Jalen Pickett and being like, this is it.
Now that you mentioned Bruce Brown, Ray, do you think getting Bruce Brown and Tim Hardaway Jr. on 1-year veteran minimum deals is a good value signing? Or do you think those deals tell us something about their level of play in 2025? Are we finally a ring chaser destination?
Maybe. And it's funny, I did not even think about that until you posted saying that's what we were going to talk about, because those are really small contracts, and you don't see a lot of mini mid levels that are full mini mid levels. Like, right, what is that? I don't know, like 7 or 8 million or 6 million a year now. You would have thought they would have had something between that and the vet min. I think that with Bruce, I kind of feel like that was just what his plan was all along, and that maybe he could have got more, but he had just gotten so much money already. Perhaps that's the same with Tim, but Tim does seem like somebody who wanted to come here for that ring chaser, which honestly is just wild to think about, because I thought Denver would be a wasteland for backup players, but now you're starting to see it. And I kind of feel like they could have maybe even gotten like your guy Al if they really needed to, if they really wanted to throw him like the full mid-level or something like that. So I guess the answer is possibly yes. And I can't believe it, but I believe it now.
Here's a funny anecdote from the was it the second night of the free agency? So the Nuggets got Cam Johnson, and then they got Bruce Brown. Right and away. There was a friend of mine who is a journalist in Serbia, and he texted me and says, "What's the next move for the Nuggets? Who do they need?" Well, I guess they need a shooting guard now. So who should they get? I mean, the free agent market is not really that deep. I mean, unless they get a guy like Tim Hardaway Jr., like I don't see any good names on that list. And then Tim Hardaway Jr., like 30 minutes later, becomes a Nugget. Pete, do you think this is a ring-chasing moment from THJ?
From him specifically, I think yes. I also think he probably looks at Jokić as a guy that he wants to play with because he used to play with Luka. So he's even though it's different, it's still like the European aspect, and then also he's played against Jokić a lot, so he knows what he has to deal with. But to your bigger point of is Denver a ring chasing destination? I think just based on the roster and like where they are as a contender, yes. But I think there's a bigger factor here that probably hurt the Nuggets in the past that might not be as big a deal anymore, which is NBA salaries are just going up in general, right?
Mhm.
So if you look at Tim Hardaway Jr. and Bruce Brown, those guys have both now made over $50 million in their career. So, I don't know if you guys are big comedy fans, but I think Dave Chappelle once said, the only difference between $10 million and $100 million is $90 million. Like the lifestyle is not that different, right? So, yeah, Tim Hardaway probably could have made like 2 or 3 times as much if he wanted to go play for the Hornets. But he's
Right.
he's on the back 9 of his career, and he probably wants to play for something. He probably doesn't want to just be a vet in like a rebuilding situation. So yeah, I think it's a good value, and I'm excited to have Tim because I think there's a reason he's a minimum guy. He's not really a great defender, and he's not super consistent. But what he is he's a proven scorer, and he's not afraid to get shots up, which is something that the team really needed, honestly.
Oh yeah.
If we go back and relook at the Oklahoma City series, I hate doing it because it just makes me so mad because our starters were better than their starters. But they had guys that came off the bench, Caruso, Wallace, and Wiggins, that were competent. Not great, but competent. And sometimes you just need that punch. You need a guy who can, Tim Hardaway is going to have games next year where he hits 4 threes in a game. We really didn't have a guy like that. We didn't have a Bones Highland. So if he like comes in next year and just has one good playoff game, that could be enough in a series. So I think it's a good swing by the front office.
Andy, so Pete just mentioned Dave Chappelle's joke about the difference between 10 and $100 million. Now, you know more about it because you're obviously in a designer clothes industry yourself. So you know what we're talking about. Do you think maybe Tim Hardaway Jr. is trying to get his Bruce Brown contract on the Nuggets this season?
Yeah, I think you'd be crazy not to recognize that. I think that's a selling point. If the agent was smart, go here and do well, and then pop back out and win a ring and make a weird amount of money next year. You've already made, to Pete's point, you've already made $50 million. It's probably okay. His dad's Tim Hardaway. Like, I think he's okay. And so, that's another motivator that I kind of like, because it's like, I think Tim Hardaway jumped at this because he realizes he saw the same thing we all do, which is that with 6, 7 guys, the Nuggets were right there, a whisker from being in the conference finals again and probably the finals. So, I think he's played enough against the Nuggets the last few years, particularly on the Mavericks, to know the rhythm of that team and to know what Luka thinks about it and what anybody else kind of around the West knows about the Nuggets. So I think he was hyped. I'm sure he was like, get me over there, because also Detroit, as a little side show, is about to become a huge drama because our boy Malik Beasley sounds like betted on basketball and he's going to get tossed. So I was really impressed with their organization replacing him with Duncan Robinson immediately, because I don't think Duncan Robinson's doing any of that. But I think Hardaway showed last year on another team that he's a winning piece, or can be a winning piece, and he's got the shortcomings we talked about. But you know what? He's a pretty good basketball player. And it's like, if you, on the shooting spectrum, if this were a role-playing game and you had one card with Michael Porter Jr. and 2 cards with Cam Johnson and Tim Hardaway Jr., you'd be like, oh, the shooting over on these 2 cards is better than even this one good shooter.
Okay, let's take one more short break, and then we're going to play a small game of power ranking the Denver Nuggets bench guys. Don't go anywhere. Exciting, right? Okay, we are back. Ray, if I would ask you to rank from 6 to 10 Denver Nuggets bench guys for next season, based on 0 minutes played by Tim Hardaway Jr., Jonas Valanciunas, and Cam Johnson is in the starting lineup. So how would you rank those guys?
So just all the bench guys we have now.
Yeah, like from 6 to 10. You don't have to go to 14
Okay.
because we have 14 guys right now.
In order of like how good they are, I would probably
Yeah.
put Jonas number 1, Bruce Brown number 2. Ooh, then it gets really hard, but oh man, I don't want to do this, but I probably would put Jalen Pickett at number 3. That's just me.
My.
Yeah,
Oh my.
I think that Jalen Pickett is going to be an above average, bench point guard. But that's just me. But like after that, it's really hard.
That
It's
was
like
spicy.
thank you. After that, it's going to be probably Tim Hardaway or Julian Strawther or Peyton Watson. I don't know which one it is. Last year, I would say I would rank it where I put it would be Tim, then Peyton, then Julian. But that could be completely flip flopped this year. I think in order of importance, it's just going to be most likely P. Watt. And then after that, what do we have? Zeke Naji? Or did I get to 10? I think I might have got to 11. Sorry.
No problem. Pete, how would you rank the bench guys?
Jonas first, Bruce second, Tim third, Julian fourth, and begrudgingly Peyton fifth. But Nuggets Twitter, you can at me. I'm out on Peyton Watson. I'm just out. I'm sorry.
Okay, and you're also out on Jalen Pickett, I guess.
Oh man.
No, he's fine. I don't think his ceiling is like anything above competent backup point guard. Like he plays the right way. Don't get me wrong, but I just feel like whenever they have to count on him, that's like hasn't really shown to be a good spot for him.
Yeah, Andy, how would you rank the reserves?
Yeah, I think the most important person on the bench this year is Bruce Brown, in the sense that we got this burst of energy from Russ, and for all his like whatever, Russ had a pretty good season last year, and he looked really good, like better than some of his sloppy years where he looked like he cared less or didn't jive with the other people he was playing with. I thought he was a total professional, and shifting that energy, Bruce Brown's got to bring it, or more correctly, probably Bruce Brown and Jalen Pickett have to bring it in terms of coming in. And the real mission here is to make the non-Jokić minutes not suck. So what it should be is Bruce, then Jonas, then Hardaway, and then you have this three-headed thing of the most potential to like change things, period, is Peyton Watson. If Peyton Watson takes another step, great. If he's not, I'm not out on Peyton Watson. He's a good player. But Hardaway, Jonas, Bruce, those are players you know what you're going to get every night, kind of, if they're playing all the time. Obviously, Bruce been bouncing around a little bit. But, I think with being where he wants to be, I think Bruce it might just be that type of guy that didn't take 2 years off, but got injured a lot and moved around the last couple seasons and come back and know the mission and be focused. If he is that, we're going to be really hard to beat. If he's feels like I won a championship and I'm a celebrity here and, everybody loves me and I've arrived and this is where I belong and the effort is 85%, we won't be good enough. But if Bruce Brown shows up, we know what Bruce Brown can do. Those last 16 games are all that matters. And, he is a postseason player, and so are Jonas and Hardaway. I think Valanciunas, should this all materialize like we'd all like to see, play, it's going to be the most consequential minutes of his life. He's going to play 20 minutes all year, and he's going to play 20 hard minutes in the playoffs. And those minutes, I hope that he's shot out of a cannon and really excited. We'll see.
If I would have to guess which Nuggets bench guy is going to play the most minutes next season, if he's healthy, I think that's Bruce Brown.
Mm-hmm.
He just has the opportunity to do what he did 3 years ago: play the 1, play the 2, play the 3, play the 4, and just replace whichever starter you need to replace. So that's why I agree with Andy, with him possibly being the most important bench guy this season. Jonas is interesting because he's not going to play a lot of minutes if he's only playing the backup 5. I hope DA is brave enough
Yes.
to give us some big Euro ball this season. Just try it. Just try it.
Can we
Just
call them
try
the Euro
to-
Mountains? Can we do that now on this? Would it be the Euro Mountain? Would it be what mountains would it be?
It would be I think it would be the first Serbo-Lithuanian friendship in history. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Well, slightly.
He used to play with Plumley sometimes, but
He did.
Plumley's
Yeah.
a little more athletic than Jonas.
They did. Plumlee was way more mobile than Jonas is. So I would actually guess that Joker is a de facto 4 in this kind of lineup, and Jonas is the 5. I would just love to see that. Like, I remember my guys from DNVR, they hated every time Joker was playing the 4 for the Serbian national team. I think there's some value to it because nobody can catch a rebound against you in that sort of system. Although, of course, there are limitations defensively, of course. So
I think we'll see
Jonas,
it when they play against the Rockets this year for sure, because they have that lineup where they play Adams and Sengun together. It makes the most sense to go double big against that lineup.
I would love that. I would love that. The return of the big guy. That would be just awesome. Like, give me 4 centers on the court like it's the 90s. let's go back there. We're all complaining on too many threes being shot. Like, let's put 4 guys that combine for a 1,200 pounds of muscle. Okay, so with that said, Jonas and Bruce, I would also give the nod to Tim Hardaway Jr. because he's a veteran. And after that, I'm not sure. I'm not sure who would be my 9th guy, honestly, because
Me neither.
You could go. I can see Pickett. I can see Strother. I can see Payton. I have the least belief in Payton right now, but I might be completely, swayed the other way. October 20th. Who knows? Some things might happen. Probably not, but some things might happen. So I don't think the Nuggets have 10 solid guys yet, but they might get to it by the end of the regular season. What do you think about that, Ray? Is it or Pete, if you want to jump in?
I was going to say, can I put Duran Holmes ahead of Peyton Watson, or is that just pure hate?
That's hate.
God, wouldn't that be a cool problem if that's real?
I think that's optimism.
He's better than Peyton Watson. We'd be in pretty good shape.
I mean, somebody in the comments said this, like, Peyton Watson can't guard guys like Naz Reid. He should not be playing the 4 ever. He's our best perimeter defender off the bench, probably. But yeah, Peyton only works in certain lineups.
I will give you the Deron Holmes take you are all gonna hate, but it's gonna be really honest from my side. The best case scenario for the Nuggets this season is we don't talk about Deron Holmes at all. Like, we don't need to go that way because our veteran guys are playing well and they're just cruising through the regular season, and we're not even thinking about why is Deron Holmes not playing more, man? Like, don't they want to develop some more young guys? No, just win 60 games and win a championship. That's enough for me. But yeah, that might be just me. Okay, I think we've covered everything I wanted to say about the new guys coming in. The last thing I wanted to cover before we move to Michael Porter is, Pete, Jonas Valanciunas saga is still not over. While you're seeing my young boy behind me trying to steal a remote or something. I'm not sure what's going on there. Do you have a football analogy to what's going on with Jonas right now? Or am I putting you on the spot?
Oh, that's a good question. Sort of. I mean, it's actually much more common for football players to hold out because they don't like their contract. The difference is that football players don't have the option of going to play for a team in Greece, with beaches and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think Jonas, I don't know if you guys watched that 10-minute video that European YouTuber did about the whole situation. Yeah. I thought it was pretty good. But I think this is just Jonas trying to make a leverage play. I think he understands the rules. And I actually do feel for Jonas a little bit because I think this is one of those situations where, yes, he signed the contract, but he's tired of moving. And I think he wants assurances from Denver like, hey, if I'm there, like I want to be there the whole year. I know I'm not the level of player that's going to get a no trade clause, but he doesn't want like things to go south and then get stuck playing in like Charlotte or something. So I think the Nuggets are trying to assure him, like, no, we're trying to win. We want to keep you. You're a big part of the plan. I have no idea if there's been conversations about the unguaranteed portion of the contract for next year. Because yeah, I don't think the Nuggets should guarantee that. I think, a lot of things can change in a year for various reasons. But we absolutely need him this year. And the way David Adelman talked about it at Summer League, it sounds like he's in. So we haven't had official word of the trade yet, but I'm gonna just kind of be under the assumption that everything is gonna go as planned and that he's gonna be here. Because I just haven't heard any reports saying like this is gonna fall apart.
Andy, anything to add?
I obviously hope it goes through. I think that it seems like it'll go through. I think this right now the second year seems to be the issue. Like Pete said, he's been tossed around for as good of a player as he is. Or in terms of having a solid several year career, he's been on a lot of teams, and I think I do think there's something to the family element, and I think that's the whole thing. I think he's tired of going from Sacramento to New Orleans to whatever. I did that backwards, but you get the point. He's been all over the place, and I think if he could finish and make the same amount of money and be with his family in Greece, and there's a lot of value in that I think a lot of basketball fans don't understand. Like I think he's played a lot of basketball. Now the thing that makes it different is he's going to play with Jokić, and he's going to play with this team that's already won, and that has to be enticing from a competitive standpoint, or he's not worth the contract anyway. So
Ray,
that's the question. Does he still want to play basketball? And if he wants to play basketball, he should really want to play basketball here.
family things are also a different kind of layer to all of this. We have to put our families first in many situations in life. So I would not be angry at Jonas if he would just not be willing to play with a lot of enthusiasm for the Nuggets, to put it lightly. I would get it. It's still something he should honor because he has not only next season's contract but also a team option for 2026, 2027. And by the way, Ray, that was probably the most enticing part of trading for Jonas because not only you're getting him as a huge upgrade over Dario Saric, you're also getting that expiring second, which is not guaranteed, which could be really valuable in a trade scenario, even this upcoming trade deadline.
Yeah, and you actually do have a little bit to deal with. Well, maybe not this trade deadline. I would say like at the end of this year, basically a year from now, you can still trade your 2026 pick, which they own, and you're going to have your swaps for 2031 and 2033 that you can still trade. So if they do want to get a little bit better, they still do have that. Yeah, just going back to the whole thing that Pete was saying, I watched that video as well, and I would encourage anybody to watch it. I actually felt a lot for Jonas and his situation, and it's already been talked about with the family, but it's really with being jerked around so much by different teams. But one thing that the video also said that we haven't mentioned is that they said that he was locked in once he got to the point where he was playing and that he was a professional. I feel like right now it's just a lot of posturing and a lot of, you're going to kick your or stomp your feet right now and dig your heels. But once the season starts, I just don't see that out of him. And I've watched him enough to know that he goes pretty hard, especially on the boards. And I feel like it's just going to be the same thing, especially when they start winning, hopefully.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to give one last positive take on this situation. I know this might not be the best negotiating strategy, but I feel like one of the things the Nuggets should be saying to Jonas is, hey, man, let's just get you in the door. If you come to training camp and you get around the guys, I think, DNVR's talked a lot about Bruce Brown being back and the vibes being better. I think just being on a good team can honestly like help a guy so much. And they could say something like, hey, if it's not working out, like we can work on a buyout later, but just give it a chance. And I think Jonas will learn pretty quickly that like, winning basketball is fun. The poor guy's been stuck in Sacramento, Washington, and New Orleans for the past 5 years. So I think that really does wear players down after a while, guys.
I can see it.
Constant movement is moving around the U.S. as well, and his family is already in Europe. So yeah, I can see his wishes there, but still hope Jonas will be back with the Nuggets when the training camp arrives. Okay, let's take our last break, and then I actually remember they have one more topic I wanted to talk to you about before we move to Michael Porter appreciation segment. Don't go anywhere. Okay, my camera is blurred for some reason.
It's not pulling focus, Miroslav. We got to
Yeah.
get.
Okay, now it's good.
There we go. There you go.
Now it's good. Now it's good. So I've sent to everybody in the notes except Andy because I don't like him as much as you two guys. I wanted you to give me your favorite lineups for next season. Not necessarily the best lineups, but the lineups you're going to be excited about. So Ray, let's start with you. Do you have a lineup prepared for us?
Okay, so you took the first one that I had, which was the two big lineups. So I'm not going to talk about that, but that's what I really want to see.
How would you fill out the lineup, by the way?
I would probably just have your starters with your two bigs and then have AG out. I think that's just, this is what I would actually play a lot of against somebody like OKC. Just because I feel like when you have a team that's kind of slight, going up against Denver's got to be really hard. Like
play zone against them.
Exactly, because they're just giving up a free shot somewhere anyway, and that's sort of how they're having them beat you. But I mean, like size-wise, first of all, they're going to have Chet and Chet and Ihart on the floor, and that really kind of slows down their offense anyway. Or they can try to go and play small, in which case, J-Dub is going to get rocked like pretty much all game, and or you put like Alex Caruso on them, which I think that they're going to have figured out by this next time. So yeah, there's a lot of places where I would like to see that lineup. My other lineup though is I think I'm really excited to see, and I hope that they do this more, but Jalen Pickett and Jamal Murray with Jonas as the lone big, just to actually have a capable screener off the bench, which they just don't have in their bench big guys. And I think both of those guys play well off of good screeners. We haven't seen that since Plumlee though, other than Jokić. So that would be that'd be very interesting, and I would fill that out. Like my dream bench lineup would be something like Jamal, Pickett. I know that Bruce would be playing with more of the starters, but Jamal, Pickett, either Cam or Julian, and then at the 4 and 5, I would go with Duran or Zeke and JV. I know that's not a very talent-rich lineup, but I feel like their skills all like mesh perfectly, and you would have two guys that can run pick and rolls with a big screener in Valanciunas, and then shooters around them.
Pete, what do you have for us?
So I would love to see a lineup of the starters, but with Tim Hardaway Jr. at the 2 instead of Christian Braun. I think that lineup gives you the closest thing we've had to the championship lineup, where KCP was at the 2 with the other guys we still have on the team. Obviously, Cam Johnson is at MPJ now, but very similar players, really good shooters. Obviously, Cam's different, but I think that's a lineup where the Nuggets can get back to the two-man game where Jokić and Murray have space, because teams just don't guard Christian Braun. He gets all his stuff in transition and on cuts, and because people don't guard him. So if you put Tim Hardaway in that spot, Now the defense has to make a decision. Are they going to continue to guard him like Christian Braun and just leave him open? Or, I don't know about you guys, but I still feel a lot better with Tim Hardaway Jr. catching the ball in the wing open versus Christian Braun. So I know the shooting percentages don't back me up there, but it's not always about the percentages. It's about the volume. And I know Tim Hardaway's not afraid to shoot. So I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up closing some games this year. Probably not at the expense of Christian Braun, but if there's injuries, I think he might end up being the guy. But because if it was Malone, we know it'd be Bruce Brown for sure. But Dave Adman, he doesn't really have like his guys, so we'll see. He's just going to do whatever makes the team the best.
Andy?
I am excited for all lineups that are non-Jokic minutes. So I'm excited for Cam Johnson to be, in the starting five, and I think that the new things that he adds will delight Jokic and delight everybody else. So I think that's going to be a net positive, and I am excited for that. But I'm really interested to see when 2 or 3 of those starters play with, some of the guys we've been talking about. And one guy we didn't talk about very much is Strother. Like I said, Watson is almost the most important of that tier of guys to elevate. If Strother does, can you imagine how dope it would be if Strother and or Watson were real players, and you add consistent, decent Jonas, consistent, decent Bruce, consistent, decent Hardaway? Then it becomes like instead of when Jokic is out, we just drop off a cliff. It feels a little bit more like the Celtics when they were like in the last couple of years. It feels like, there's like 10 guys, and as long as you have our Jaylen Brown, whatever that is, or Tatum or whatever, like you got 2 guys or 1 guy in the game that can sort of maestro it. I just like a lot of the different skills that we have. I think we're much more multidimensional. I think we had a lot of 1 or 2 skill guys, and we still have some of those guys. But we're going to find out if they can do the third skill. If not, we have real NBA players that will be happy to receive a dope pass from Jokic in the corner or on the way to the basket. So I also, I'll just say one thing. I hear what Pete's saying about Christian Braun, and I think he's getting a little dogged a little in the sense that, you're right. They didn't guard him as much as they were on the perimeter. But also, like, I think the long arc of that is I still believe in him as a decent 3-point shooter. And with all these other guys, it's going to be even more hidden, or that, his any potential weakness is going to be hidden because there's going to be 3 or 4 guys that can hit a shot at all times, and he can cut to the basket and add the energy through the middle or in transition and be a net positive. I think there's a lot of net positive guys on the team now, and there are less net negative guys on the team that will be playing, at least.
You've all made really good points. I like the lineups you presented. I came up with 3, and I'm just going to shoot them quickly because we don't have a lot of time. The first one would be the all-defense lineup of Brown, Cam Johnson, Aaron Gordon, and Nikola Jokić. I think that's our best defensive 5. And then the all-shooting lineup of Jamal, Tim Hardaway, Strother, Cam Johnson, and Jokić. I'm finding myself turning into Julian Strother's corner a bit. Yeah. I was pretty low on him last year, but I'm looking at all of these potential lineups, and I see a lot of good things coming from him. Of course, if he's hitting his shots, he's going to hit it because he's going to need to hit his shots. And then another lineup, and that's similar to what Ray mentioned, is a classical pick and roll lineup with Pickett and Jonas.
Yes.
And then 3 shooters in Tim Hardaway, Strother, and Cam Johnson. You had Jamal Murray there. I don't think I wouldn't.
He's a shooter though.
I wouldn't make him play too many minutes this season. Just let him rest. Let 3 other shooters get in and let these 2 guys cook. Okay. Let's now move to Michael Porter Jr. So it is time for some tiers. Michael Porter was a valuable starter on the team that won the first NBA championship in the 50 years of Denver Nuggets NBA history. They also didn't win any ABA championships before that. I have to mention that for the purists watching this. Michael Porter dropped from the potential number 1 pick to number 14 pick because he has missed almost the entire freshman season in Mizzou after he needed back surgery, and then missed the first season of his NBA contract because of his second back surgery. His de facto NBA rookie season ended up in a bubble where he showed a lot of promise. The following season, he had his best numbers, so he was awarded by signing a full-size max rookie extension, and the expectations of him were high, especially since Jamal Murray sustained a knee injury that kept him out for more than a season. Alas, when the 2021-2022 season started, it was immediately obvious Mike wasn't right, and after just 9 games, it was obvious he needed a third back surgery. Those were the uncharted waters, and many thought he wouldn't be able to return to the court. But Mike is built differently. He learned how to play through significant pain and helped the Nuggets win it all in his first season back. Yes, he wasn't the same player he was before that third surgery. He has frustrated a lot of fans because he couldn't pick up the ball from the floor in many situations. And I was there in the arena when he tried to pick it up after he lost control of the ball and injured his shoulder in the process. Sadly, the last games we saw Mike play for the Nuggets were the ones with the wrong boot on his dropped foot, his stiff back, and a dislocated shoulder. Mike lost a couple of very important seasons for his growth as an all-around player, and then his body betrayed him, not allowing him to keep playing as an elite specialist level. I want to thank Mike for being a real soldier, since he could have retired immediately after needing that third surgery and still get all of his money, but instead he gave his all and became a true franchise legend. So, Pete, let's start with you. How will you remember Mike as a Nugget?
I will remember him as a guy who knew from the very beginning that his career was probably not going to be what it envisioned. I mean, you really saw the pain on his face on draft night of falling. He thought it was going to be like a top 3 pick. And he just poured his whole heart and soul into the organization. I don't think anybody, even if you can't stand Michael Porter, you can never say that he didn't give it his all. You know, he was 100% in at all times. You know, I want to give credit to Matt Moore. They did a segment on Locked On Nuggets recently, basically just talking about Michael Porter. And he said that he could have gone out at any time. He could have been like, I'm over this situation, get me out of here. And he never did. He kept taking the criticism from Malone or whoever, and he kept trying to come back and be a good teammate. So I know he didn't always play as aggressive or as good as we wanted, but I thought he was an excellent teammate. You know, I don't think we saw anybody saying like good riddance, like as far as teammates. You know, I think they all like Mike. So it's going to be different. You know, I think my initial reaction to the trade was just sadness, because no matter what you think of Mike, like this next season, it's going to be a different era now. You know, the team's going to be different. It might be good. I'm not saying the Nuggets aren't a contender anymore. I'm not saying that at all, but this era of Nuggets is over. The core 4 is over. And Mike was a part of that. You know, he was a part of the championship. I think a lot of people will say like, oh, he wasn't that good. He only averaged like 13 in the playoffs or whatever. Here's the thing. Every playoff series is different. Mike was an absolute Lakers killer. I always love him for that. He went 9-4 against the Lakers in the playoffs in his career. Absolutely torched them. And he bought into his role. You do not win a championship without guys buying into their role and sacrificing. If he was more selfish, he might have derailed that playoff run. Who knows? But he was fine with playing his role, hitting shots when he was open, and, you know, trying his best to play defense and rebound and letting Jamal and Jokić cook. And I think, you know, if you look at all championship teams, they all need certain pieces in certain places. And I think, you know, the term they used on Locked On Nuggets that hasn't really been talked about with Porter much, and I think is fair, is he was a star role player. and when people look at his contract, they're going to say, well, we needed more. That's fair. But in terms of getting one, like, I don't have to tell you guys how hard it is to win a championship. Almost half the fan bases of the NBA don't have one. Getting that first one is the hardest one, and he is a major reason why we were able to get it. So we thank Mike. I knew it was going to be big time for the organization when we drafted him, and luckily it worked out. I don't look at this as a tragedy at all. I look at it as this guy was able to overcome. He was able to learn how to play NBA basketball, fit as best as he could with Jamal and Joker. He seems very appreciative of his time here, and he's ready to move on. It almost seems like he doesn't even have hard feelings, So I'm happy for him that he was here and had an accomplished career in Denver. Obviously, I hoped it would have continued, but I'm at peace with it now, and I wish him the best.
Ray, what do you think?
I mean, I don't have much else to say. That Pete said pretty much everything, but the one thing that kind of stuck out is that he really never complained. I mean, he had like one tiny thing at game 4 in the bubble where he said that thing, but that really wasn't even a complaint. But he had every reason to complain a lot of the times about what was happening with his role, being marginalized, benched. And I don't think it would have been. I would have thought less of him if he did, but there was never anything there. It was just everything seemed to always be the positive side of things that happened to him. And
what did he do the game after that, Ray?
Exactly. He made one shot, or he took 2 shots, and the one shot, purest thing. That was the first shot of the game, and the second shot, I think it was like in garbage time. But then it wasn't even just the shot; it was after the shot. He blocked Zubac right away. Yeah, it was like he. But anyway, like I'm just saying, it's just like he had no reason to be that as positive as he was, given everything that happened to him, and he always was right up till this last goodbye. And I don't know if we're going to see that. Like we don't see that in a lot in players. They always have these passive aggressive digs that you just don't. I never got it out of them.
I have to make a joke here because the Mike shot, if he missed it, I don't know if Michael Malone or Nikola Jokić would murder him first because that was a bad shot.
That's Mike.
He drained it. This is how you recognize a great shooter. Andy, you've seen Mike play in Pepsi Center and in Ball Arena so many times. What are you going to miss the most?
I'm going to miss the fact that he is somebody who sort of is like, not a finesse guy, but has like some softer edges about him, or at least by reputation. And the reality is he's got more dog in him than I think maybe even the 4 of us would give him credit for initially. We wanted to see it, and I think everybody saw his talent, his height, his gifts, and was like, oh, if he's not KD, it's a failure. And it's like, you know what? He soldiered through any number of things physically and mentally on and off the court constantly. And how did he end his career? Contributing in the playoffs, playing with basically one arm, pulling down rebounds with one arm. And, I mean, he had a sputter on the way out, but it's not because he wasn't playing hard. It was because he did everything that you'd want a player to do, which is walk into a gunfight way outgunned and play as hard as he can. And I think Michael Porter doesn't get enough credit for the amount of heart that he has and the amount of toughness that he has, even though we all can say we respect his journey. Like, he's tough. Like, yeah. And also on a player level, he's pretty freaking good. He doesn't, he's got some hands issues. He's got all the things that we talk about forever where he's deficient. Sure, that's like NBA Twitter now and NBA fandom and the basketball analysis. But the reality is he got better in almost every area that he was not what he should have been. He became a better rebounder the last few years. His effort level there was incredible. When he was in the title game and in the title series, where he wasn't able to make shots, he's still willing himself towards the basket and, doing a basketball can't move through the legs on the run in the lane and then finishing the basket. So I think Michael Porter is a true nugget. He's forged in the fires of the Malone era and with all these tough guys that just were right or wrong taught to play the game the right way. And I think he's deficient in a handful of areas. I don't think he can do a lot of the things we griped that we wanted him to do. But I think in the areas that he was gifted, he did everything he could, and I think he's a guy who's like pretty close to his ceiling, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He didn't. There's no question that he's efforting whatever he can get out of his body and his game.
My last thought on Michael Porter is, guys, he is the most efficient Nugget in history. And the Nuggets had Nikola Jokić. So
Crazy.
That's crazy.
never forget that. Never forget.
Like 2-point percentage or true shooting, or what are we talking here?
It's I think it's effective field goal percentage because his free throws are not that great, but I think effective field goal percentage is the highest in the history of.
And he has the record
Nuggets
for
basketball.
most 3-pointers made in a year.
There we
Really?
go. That is an interesting, because I would have never thought it was his, but of course, because sometimes his threes were not as loud as some of the others. But yeah, Mike, all the luck on the Nets. We hope you become a 25-point per game scorer, or better yet, let me be completely frank. I hope Mike gets whatever he wants with his life. If he wants to retire after this contract expires, and that makes him happy, I will be happy for him. If he wants to try and play for next 10 years in the NBA and suffer through pain and stuff like that, all the power to him. Like whatever Mike chooses for his path, I'm going to be rooting for him.
Except if he goes to OKC for a minimum after this contract.
Oh yeah, that's
Oh yeah,
Like, no.
no Lakers, please. No
in that
OKC.
case, he's that to me. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he can do that. I'd be okay with either one.
Do we have time to share our favorite MPJ moment?
Yeah, sure.
So I think my favorite play was game 2 against the Lakers last year. Nuggets were down like 15. They are on the comeback trail. They're down 3 with about a minute left. And there's that crazy play where I think Jokić does like a pass ahead to Gordon, and he's about to fall out of bounds, and he saves it to Mike. And Mike just doesn't even hesitate, rises up, takes a contested 3, all net, tie game, crowd goes wild. Lakers call timeout, and Nuggets ended up going on to win the game and take a 2-0 series lead.
His release time was so slow because he didn't care. Nobody could ever challenge his shot. Like he could have taken that behind his head for 3 full seconds and there would still be no block because that's how high his release point was. Okay, Ray, any closing thoughts about the Nuggets, about summer life in general before we go?
It was something I wanted to bring up, but I kind of want to know, do we think that maybe Aaron Gordon is not going to play 3 or may play 3? Because the one thing that I think is the most positive that's from the guys that we have is he's a shooter now, right? I trust it. I really trust it. There was like never any like month where he shot like 20%. He was just consistently good all the way into the playoffs. So because of that, are some of these lineups where he plays 3, are they available?
Interesting
only
thought.
thought I have,
Interesting thought, and I like it. I love jumbo lineups, so you're always gonna get a vote from me.
Same.
And Andy, do you want to promote any of your other businesses outside of designer clothes?
No, I just want people to come out to Mississippi and Chambers, International Man in Aurora. Buy one, get one suits. They got Stacey Adams shoes. They removed some clothing lines of people that had scandals. So it's all good, clean living and good, clean clothes over here at International.
I have no idea if this is a real advertisement or not.
It's a real place, and you should go there.
Okay, Pete. Do you have a Four Corners episode in the works?
We do not. To be determined, as we're on hiatus, but we'll be back.
Okay. And that is all I've prepared for you this week, my dear listener. And please, with the cherry on top, take the word prepared very loosely. Be well, be safe, be kind to everybody, call your mom, and until next week, Michael Porter Jr.